Good to have you here. Good to have you here.
Glad to be here.
How does someone end up as vice president of Arkansas Nuclear One? You know,
So that's a long story, but I started out having a desire in sciences and stuff when I was in school. So that kind of led to me trying to figure out a pathway into something that I enjoyed. Ultimately, really wasn't mature enough probably to go to college when I first started out. So I started out in college and decided that wasn't for me. So I went in the military. And my time in the military, I spent almost 10 years in the military. I tried to go into a field that interested me, which was nuclear power at the time. I would probably say it interested me probably more so because it offered some sign-on bonuses whenever I started out. So with that being said, I went into the nuclear Navy. I spent almost 10 years in the nuclear Navy. It provided a good opportunity for me to raise a family. I had two small children while I was in the military. And after getting out, I decided that I was going to kind of get out of the nuclear field. I'd done it for a little while. Got into a career working in a Fortune 500 company that manufactured hand tools, which is kind of what my background was in, based on what my father had done when I was younger. After about a year doing that, I realized that I really enjoyed being in the nuclear industry in general. So I hired here at Arkansas Nuclear One as a non-licensed operator. For those of you who may not know, those are the operators who operate the non-reactor side of the house. So they're the ones that operate all the equipment in the power plant that kind of keeps the plant running. It's the power generating side. And from that point on, I advanced my way through multiple different steps in that organization, including becoming a reactor operator and operating Unit 1 for a period of time, a senior reactor operator, shift manager, assistant operations manager, operations director, and have held multiple different positions within the organization that we have out there, including maintenance director. I had an opportunity in 2017 to go work in a company in Atlanta. It's called the Institute of Nuclear Power Operations. That company is kind of governing body that governs all the nuclear power plants in the U.S. So I got the opportunity to tour around a lot of different power plants in the U.S. and some abroad, and really is a governing body in checking and making sure that they maintain high standards in the nuclear industry. And then came back in about the 2019 time period and have filled multiple other roles at the station, including plant manager, before taking the role as vice president. So that's kind of my background and how I became the vice president here at Arkansas Nuclear One.
was that a role you ever had ambitions for?
Obviously ambitions, yes, I would say, but knowing also and being a realist, I realized there was only one vice president at the station, so I kind of set my goals on the fact that I thought I could do it. But I don't think I would have been disappointed had I not been selected. I think I work with a good group of people. I've enjoyed all the jobs that I do out there at the station, and I don't think that I've ever regretted any of them I've ever had. So I would have been happy where I was at, and I really appreciate the opportunity to get the opportunity to work with a bunch of good people in the position I'm in now.
As advancing your way through an organization like that, kind of, would you say from the bottom, I guess, from an entry-level position?
Yeah, most definitely.
Has that given you what kind of perspective has that given you?
It gives me a perspective, knowing that in many cases what people are dealing with in the plant themselves. In some cases I've done some of the jobs they've done. In other cases, I've had the opportunity to watch what they do. Really, I don't care in what industry you're in, but having a relationship with people, understanding what they're dealing with, and trying to resolve those problems—that's really what being a supervisor or a manager is about. Setting and reinforcing high expectation for your people. I kind of live by a set of rules that I've kind of kept in my mind as I go throughout my career. And when I ask somebody to do something, I always kind of ask myself, is it unethical? Is it immoral? Is it illegal? And is it something that I wouldn't ask them to do myself? And usually if I can answer those questions in my own mind, it's something that I'd ask somebody else to go do.
Did you learn to be a leader in the military, in the Navy?
Probably no. I'll tell you, early in my career, I've got to see good leaders while I was in the military. I've seen good leaders in some of the positions that I've been in that I would say that were leaders that, I worked for. I truly believe this when I say this, and I say it a lot at the station. I don't believe a leader is a title you can give yourself. I think a leader is a title somebody else has to give you. You can be in a position, you can be a supervisor, you can be a manager, but to be a leader, somebody else has to call you that. And so I think it's a title that's earned and not really just delegated, if that makes sense.
Was there a certain point where you kind of started thinking of yourself as a leader?
I hate to say it, but I don't think of myself as a leader today. I like to think of myself as a part of a good operating team that operates with high standards, and I'm just a member of that team. Sometimes I have to make decisions based on the position that I'm in that may be viewed as as a leadership position. But I like to hear the feedback from the people that I work with on things they like to see, things they'd like to see me do better. So in all essence, I guess that does make you in a position of leadership. But that title, like I said, it's something that somebody's gonna have to give you. And probably earlier in my career, I don't necessarily know that I modeled the behaviors that I would expect. And I really had to do some thinking. It was around the 2017, 2019 timeframe that I really started, reflecting back on interactions that I have with people, and is that the way I would want to be treated? And did some inward reflection and had to look back on my career and where I wanted to go in my career going forward. And went and did a little bit more education, went back and got my master's in really in organizational effectiveness, understanding people behaviors, understanding my behavior, understanding my weaknesses and things I wanted to improve upon. And that's really become a focus for me at the station on trying to develop people for future roles that they may be interested in.
So you went back and got your master's. Is having a college degree or a master's degree something you heavily value in your employees and your team?
I tell you, it depends on what you do. I don't necessarily know that I value it in all different aspects, but when you have an engineer that's working on technical aspects of the job, obviously having an engineering background and understanding how you go do that's an important thing. But I value all the different jobs that we have at the station. Having employees that may not have that college degree but have hands-on experience, that work hard, come in to do a good job every day when they come in to operate that plant or put their hands on that plant, is something that's a learned value. It's not something that you teach in a college. So I value all the different employees that we have at the station equally. Each one of them brings a different skill set to the game. Each one of them has different, tools that they put in their tool pouch when they come in in their different jobs. And I think it's something that, that diverse perspective that we get from having those different people from different walks of life makes A&O a special place. So.
Yeah, it seems like there's quite a few people that work over there too. I mean, over 1,000, right?
I think our normal head count's around 1,050 that are currently on site. About 960 that report through me-ish, something like that.
Does that include contractors, or is that? How does that work?
Yes and no. We have a certain number of contractors that we always maintain on site, and we have quite a few more contractors, up to 1,500 to 2,000, depending upon what's going on during an outage. So at some times we have a couple thousand people that are out there at the station when the plants are shut down, and we're doing a lot of maintenance on them.
How does that work with A&O employing contractors? Like what is that from like an organizational perspective? How does that work?
Well, kind of going back to what I talked about, I don't like to think of them as contractors. I don't like to treat them differently than we would treat our employees that come to our station. I like to think of them as our vendor partners. They bring a different skill set, and in many cases they have the same skill set or even a higher skill set for their specific level of expertise that they're working on. And in many cases we need that expertise to be able to go do something we need in the plant. So when we bring them on site, we train them on our processes and our rules and safety practices and things of that nature at the station that will keep them safe while they're working in a nuclear power plant. But we also need to understand that they bring a different skill set that we may not have the ability to do. So we have to trust in some cases, and we validate that they have those skills, and we'll put them to work on various different aspects of the things we have at the plant.
Now that tech is back in session, something I've heard quite a few students talk about over the past few years is, especially the ones coming from out of town that aren't used to having a power plant in their backyard, they're kind of hesitant, wary of it. Could you go into more about how this plant actually operates, the safety issues that may present itself, and kind of what you would want the town and the community to know about it that may have not educated themselves on it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny in some aspects and not funny in other aspects. Most people relate, nuclear power to something that you may see on TV. The systems are built and the plants are built upon redundancy. Redundant systems that have redundant backups that are built on redundancy. So when you look at how we operate the plants are inherently designed to be safe. They have automatic safety systems that make sure that those safety systems function on a routine basis by surveilling, those equipment or performing testing on that equipment to make sure it works the way we expect it to. We test those backup systems. For instance, I'll say like off-site power. We've got multiple feeds that come in from power that provide power to the power plant. It provides its own power, obviously, when it's connected to the grid and it's supplying power. We have emergency diesel generators that are your vital power that protect all your safety-related systems that are out there at the station, such that if we lost all off-site power, those diesel generators would start and automatically tie into their buses and be able to supply power to the plant. In the event those diesels didn't operate, we have what we call blackout diesels. So if those diesels are gone, we have blackout diesels to supply power. If the blackout diesel wasn't supplying power, we have redundant alternate sources of power we can hook up through portable diesel generators that can supply power to the plant. So there's multiple redundant systems that are out there that are designed to keep those plants inherently safe. The way a plant makes power, and kind of what your question is on this, and for people that don't know, is we basically split atoms. We split uranium atoms to make heat, and that heat generated is what actually provides the steam source to be able to turn that turbine. If you kind of think about a power plant in general, all power plants are kind of created the same on the secondary side, which is the side that the turbine's on and that the generator's on. It's the motive force that is needed to be able to make the steam that rotates that turbine that's on that side is what's different. In a hydro plant, they use water that rotates that piece of machinery. In a nuclear power plant, they use steam. That steam is generated by the heat that comes off of that fission is what cools the actual plant to be able to make that rotational energy needed to create this, the motive force for driving that generator.
And once you generate that power, where is it exactly going?
So it goes out onto a grid, an international, I say international, but a national grid. That grid has multiple different types of power on it. It may have wind power on it, it may have solar power, it may have nuclear power, it may have coal power, it may have gas power that supplies that grid. And our power goes out on that grid. And, ultimately, ANO from the Entergy territory that we provide here in the state of Arkansas supplies about 65 to 70% of the clean power for the entire state. So when you look at the clean, renewable sources of power we're talking about, of which could be, solar or wind or hydro, nuclear is the largest in the country. So when you start talking about a renewable, long, available power source, our capacity factor, and what capacity factor really is providing power 365 days a year, 24/7 power. Nuclear is really the only one that has that capability. When you start talking about things such as solar, it's a great source of power, and it's a renewable energy that comes from the sun, but the sun's only shining half the day. So the luxury that you get with nuclear power is it provides that power, whether it's cold outside, whether it's hot outside, it's nighttime, daytime, whatever it may be, and it's a clean source of power.
Where do you see the country heading when it comes to investing in more nuclear power plants? Is that something that Arkansas could realistically do over the next 10, 20, 30 years? How does this all,
Yeah, as I was looking for the time frame that you're talking about on that, because building the nuclear power plant is not a slow process. Right now, the country is really looking in what they're calling small modular reactors. And those small modular reactors are plants that are not nearly the size of the ones we have out here, but you can connect 3 or 4 of them together to get the same type power output. They're much easier to run, much more inherently safe with the safety-related systems on them being passive systems as opposed to some automatic systems like we have. That is something that's going to have to be a way to the future. It's going to have to be something that we rely upon as we go forward. I know a lot of people would probably ask, why don't we just rely on solar power or wind power or hydropower? Well, there's only a limited number of hydropower you can put out there. Solar panels are hard to come by right now because they're in such high demand. But even then, the sun's only shining half the day. You'd have to have a battery that is pretty large to be able to store the power in, to be able to release that energy to the grid at a certain time of the day. The one thing that a lot of people don't really understand is that when you're talking about a power grids have upsets on them. You can have a transformer go out. You can take a lightning strike on them. things that would upset power grids, those forms of energy like batteries, they're more of a digital source. And when you put those on a grid, there's only so much that the grid can handle of that digital source of power. You've got to have the large rotational synchronous machines that are out there running on that grid to make that grid inherently stable. And what I mean by that is power sources such as nuclear, coal, gas, those big turbines that when you have an upset on the grid, they can continue to rotate and continue to put energy, through that upset. Whereas a digital source of power doesn't have that capability, or at least it doesn't have that capability right now. So I think our grid could withstand probably 40 to 50% renewables. And after that, you're going to have to make that large rotational power up with something else. And it looks like, from a clean source of power, which, Entergy is committed to by 2050, a decarbonization effort to where we're going clean with all of our power that's out there, and we expect to be decarbonized by that time period. The only way we're going to get there is by that new nuclear source of power that we have that's going to be going on the grid.
And there's something 2034 and beyond, right? You want to talk about that?
So when you look at the two power plants we have out there, we've got Unit 1 and Unit 2. We have a license, so we've gone for a license extension that allows us to operate those plants to 2034 on Unit 1 and 2038 on Unit 2. We're actually looking for a second, for another license extension on this. And the license extension would, allow us to operate those plants for an additional 20 years on the current existing license that we have. So we have a saying that we're saying out, at the station there is 2034 and beyond is setting our visions, making sure that we are putting the money and the infrastructure in the plant such that it would be able to run for an additional 20 years past the current license. When we are looking at upgrades that we're doing on systems, when we're looking at investments we're putting in that plant, we're looking at them for the long term to make sure that we can operate those plants in the future.
Who is in charge of issuing that license?
The Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So the government is the one that's in charge of issuing those licenses. When we go for a license extension, they look at how we've maintained the facility, how we've operated the facility. Is the facility capable physically of actually operating for that long? That's where all that engineering work comes into play, is that when we show them, here's how we've maintained all those different components in there. Here's what our philosophy is for, we call it aging management for old systems that are in the plant, and here's how we're replacing them. How our safety-related systems are functioning, how our people are ready to continue to operate in the plants. We present all that information to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is the final deciding vote, essentially, on whether or not they give us that license and the issuance of it.
So there's been a lot of forward thinking to sort of like strategically make sure that you have the best chance at getting that license renewed.
Absolutely. And we have, at any given time, we have members of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission that are on site. In most cases, we have 3 residents that are always on site that make sure that we operate the plants in accordance with our license that they've issued and make sure that we operate those plants safely.
Has there ever been an instance of someone not getting their license renewed for their plant?
I don't know that I could speak to if there's ever been an instance on it. I know there's instances where we have issued a second license extension to plants, and there's been questions about it after it has been issued. Not really questions on whether or not the plant's safe to operate, but there's some questions that have been out there on some of the plants on thermal design capacities, and did we look at the potential environmental impacts of continuing to operate that plant in the future, and they've had to go back and revisit them. But I don't know of any off the top of my head where they have not been issued a license.
So it's safe to say it's something that will ideally be around Russellville for a very long time. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
That community element, is that part of your job as well, managing optics in the community? I mean, obviously you're here, but is that something that plays into your day-to-day a lot? Or have you found the community pretty welcoming of?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've lived here for over 20 years now. My kids graduated from Russellville High School. Both of my kids graduated from Arkansas Tech University. Community is one of the big things that's a focus for me in the area here. I love to give back to the community. I love to go to the football games on Friday night and see people who are retired from our plant or people who have some kind of tie to Arkansas Nuclear One that ask how's the plant doing and how's the people out there, and it's a great thing to see. I don't know that I can go to anywhere in town here where I don't see somebody that has to ask me a question about it. which is a good thing, which means, our community is comfortable with the plant being there. It provides huge economic impacts to the area here. If you really think about the population of people that you were talking about, 1,000 people, work at that site. And, on average, the annual income for an employee that works out there is over $100,000 a year. So when you start talking about the economic value they provide to the community, housing, economics, money spent in our local communities here, it's huge. On the other end of that, we give back to the community as well. We invest a lot of money and we raise a lot of money for this. Right around the Christmas time frame, this is one of my wife's favorite things to do, but she loves to go Christmas shopping for kids in need in the River Valley here. And, we give a lot of money and a lot of our time to giving back in the community, whether it's through Habitat for Humanity or local time that we spend in various different things here, whether it's, I don't know what you want to call it, but the local area over here for some of the homeless that we have here. What's the term that I'm looking for there?
The Rust Bus?
The Rust Bus. Thank you. The Rust Bus. But, we do a lot of different things inside the plant that raise money. I think we raised over $100,000 this year for a local community, a charitable contribution. The other thing that we do is we afford our employees an opportunity to go out and do community service. We give them 2 days that's built into their pay structure, provided they go out and do a community service here, in the area. And one of the things that it affords us the opportunity to do is for people that may not be interested in one specific community service to get engaged in something that they are interested in. When the tornadoes came through the Little Rock, Arkansas area, we actually had some employees that packed up a bunch of gear and went down there. We had employees when it happened in Mississippi that packed up a bunch of gear and went down and helped clean up efforts. So, like I said, we try and make it open to where people have the opportunity to go do something that they find interesting that's going to support the local community. So definitely something we're big into.
That's awesome. I did not know that. Yeah. I wish more places around here could do stuff like that.
Yeah. Most recent one, as a matter of fact, that I got that we're looking into is, they're doing some work on Hickey Park and also over here at Shiloh Ball Fields, and they've recently hit us up on that. So we're talking about potentially sponsoring an area over there. We just recently gave to the local veterans here in the community. Being a veteran myself, that's something I find important. Working with the city of Russellville on a new Veterans Memorial that's going to be going out here right next to the flaghouse, the flagpole that's in downtown Russellville. So trying to get involved in as much as we can. I think we can do more. So I definitely think we support the community, and we're going to continue to do so for the long haul.
Having been in Russellville 20 years, what are the major changes you've seen? Where do you see this community headed over the next 10 years?
Well, if you would ask me, I'd love to see it stay small. I like the small community. I like the hometown atmosphere that Russellville provides. It's provided a good life for me and my family. I would recommend it to people that come to this area. I saw a welcoming of people to this area here that I had never seen before, and share a small story with you. But Richard Harris, our prior mayor, Richard and I worked together on crew years ago, operating the power plant when he worked out there. And when we shut down one of our plants that was up north, Palisades, a small contingent of people local here from our Chamber of Commerce traveled to Michigan to welcome the roughly 30 people that we had that were coming to the River Valley with open arms. So they went up there, they talked to them about, here's some banks that we have in the area, here's some real estate agents we have in the area, here's things that we offer, here's schools that are in your area, things you may be interested in. And that doesn't happen often in a town. So like I said, the community here has been very supportive of the nuclear plant, and I've really never had any negative interactions that I can recall with our community on that. So it's a good area to live.
100%. And I agree with you. I hope it kind of stays. I hope it keeps the spirit of being that hometown where you kind of know your neighbors to a degree and have that. I'm sure it will. It's up to us to make it.
It does. I agree with you on that, and it's an interesting thing. Having been there long enough now, and especially in the position that I have, you're starting to see children of children of children that are applying at that power plant. People that when I first got there who retired right after I got there. You know, their kids are now working there, but now their kids are old enough to where they're hiring their kids at the power plant. So in some cases we have, you know, I don't know that I've ever seen a fourth generation, but I've seen at least three generations of, you know, family members that have worked out the plant. So it's great to see that.
Yeah, I've met a lot of people that work out at the plant, and the way y'all approach your own personal community, it's like everyone that works there, they're just friends. There's a strong community there.
Oh, absolutely.
They get together on the weekends. They have barbecues, pool parties, all sorts of things, and it's something special. Something special.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And when something's not going right with one of them out there, they band together and they pull together to make sure they support those folks. So it's a good community. It's a good atmosphere out there. That's the reason why I've stayed with this company for as long as I have. I mean, a bunch of good people there, and they're fun to be around. So,
going back to the plant and sort of the way that I guess bureaucracy operates there, do you ever find that I guess the words I'm trying to search for, the bureaucracy that might be at the plant in the nuclear world, do you find that's generally a good thing? Does it stifle forward progress, or are those safeguards in check for a reason?
Oh, no, the safeguards associated with the plant are there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that we can do that would make it more economical to run the plant, which ultimately, you know, would be passed on to the ratepayers of the state of Arkansas. We are looking to invest in those areas to make sure that we can use safe pieces, parts inside of our systems to make sure that we're keeping the taxpayers' dollar in mind when we make investments in those utility, that infrastructure. There's fees that we pay to individual organizations, and in general, when we pay those fees, those individual organizations, they're costly. So I think there's opportunities for us to look, and we are looking at those opportunities. We have an initiative right now that we're calling our Path to Premier. That Path to Premier really focuses on three things in nuclear. One of them being safe, reliable plant operations, making sure that we're keeping our people safe and the plant safe when we operate it. It's a big focus for us. Capacity factor is another one. And what really capacity factor is how long we're online. So if we were to take 365 days a year and we were to divide it by the amount of time that we're offline, that kind of gives you a perspective of how long those plants are on. And right now ANO is operating at about 92% capacity factor. So 92% of the year we're online. That includes times that we come offline to do maintenance, outages, things of that nature. So our goal is to be top quartile performance in capacity factor. And then the last one is really predictable spending, making sure that we're spending not only our operations and maintenance budgets predictably, but the same thing for our capital budgets. So making sure that we're passing on exactly what we need to operate our plants to our ratepayers and to our customers, such as myself. So,
Do you want to touch on Nuclear Science Week?
Yeah, so that's another community outreach thing that we do, and it's a really neat thing to see. But in Science Week, Taylor and his team have put together some opportunities for local schools. Not only do we go out to the local schools, but also likewise, local schools get the opportunity to come out to the nuclear power plant, and we'll get a lot of volunteers at the nuclear power plant that will take a lot of the students. We've had some travel as far as 2 hours from here to come take a look in the power plant. We'll put them in. We have a simulator. Really didn't hit on this, but when we talked about the redundancy, the most important aspect, and we kind of go back to this all the time, that we have at our plant is our people. To become a nuclear operator at that power plant, most of the people that we hired, and it's not a prerequisite that you have this, but a lot of them are degreed engineers. Some of them are ex-Navy. Some of them are, other. But from the time that they come into that facility, it takes about 2 years to qualify as a non-licensed operator. And when I say qualify, that's learning all the systems, making sure that you understand the knowledge, testing on all those different systems. That's for the first phase of it. They go through another phase after they're done with that, which is reactor operator. It's about a 2-year qualification process. And at the end of it, you take a test that is governed by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. It's administered by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So we don't know what's going to be on that test. But we test those operators, and once every 5 weeks, they get the opportunity to come up into what we call a simulator, and it's an identical model of the plant in the plant actual, and we run drills on them. We don't tell them what drills they're going to run. We test their knowledge written, and we test their knowledge by demonstration to make sure that they know how to operate those plants. And if they don't perform to the level that we expect them to, then we keep them up there until they can before we let them go back down the plant. Once you've got your reactor operator license, then we have senior reactor operators, which is about another 2-year qualification process. So most of those operators that are out there operating the plant as a senior reactor operator, in addition to the 4 years of college that they may have gone through, have another 6 to 8 years of education that they go after to be able to make sure they operate those plants safely. And then we test their knowledge every 5 weeks to make sure they retain it. Those operators in that simulator, when we do that science week that Taylor's talking about, we bring students into that simulator and we give them the opportunity to see what happens when we trip the plant or we actuate one of our safety-related systems. We give them an opportunity to kind of manipulate the switches and see what it looks like to do certain things in the plant. So it's a great opportunity. We give them an opportunity to come out and dress out in some of the the nuclear clothing that we wear when we're doing maintenance on systems. We give them some educational pieces, some STEM activities that kind of facilitate them thinking like you would in a nuclear power plant. We show them how much coal it would take to generate the same amount of electricity that a uranium pellet makes. So very educational. It's they seem to like it when they're in the end. You got a lot of people when they're done that are interested in potential careers in nuclear power, which is a great thing. Whether that be a mechanic, a welder, an engineer. I do know that college isn't for everybody, and we've got all different trades of people out there that have the potential to make great money. So anybody's interested, we're always hiring out there, and we hire about 100 people a year, it seems like, when it's all said and done. And that's whether it's just through people retiring, people deciding they want to go somewhere else. But I mean, we hire a lot of folks out there, and it's just interesting enough. We just hired 3 electricians out there, but we had over 500 people who applied for the positions. 71 of them were screened to be interviewed, and we got a lot of people that want to come there. So it's a good work opportunity, and it's a good opportunity for people to see how those plants operate. So that all starts out with that science week, getting people out there and showing them what we do. So
How long has Science Week been going on? Just a new thing, or has it been going on for quite a while?
2-3 years now.
Yeah, it's a couple of years now.
Yeah.
It's October 16th to the 20th.
I bet you're going to see some of those kids, and however old they are, in 10, 20 years, end up at the plant.
I guarantee you will. And the other thing that's interesting is, you will see that people, even though they may not work at Arkansas Nuclear and proper, they've had an opportunity at some point to come out there, whether it's contracting for an outage or doing a job during an outage, that now have started careers where they travel throughout the country working on other outages at other nuclear power plants. And there's a large population of people that started those careers out here in the River Valley that do a lot of traveling and go to those other power plants. And I see them routinely, when they come back for the outage, they'll stop and grab me and say hello. And, some of those folks have been doing that for 15, 20 years now. So it's a fun experience. Just recently, it was probably about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, we did an Arkansas Tech alumni lunch over at Arkansas Tech and had a lot of the engineering faculty and some of the liberal arts faculty and things of that nature that came out to the station there. And there was a statistic that was put out that I wasn't aware of, but almost 1/4 of our population of people who work at Arkansas Nuclear One have graduated and or taken classes there at Arkansas Tech University now. That's just an interesting fact. We have a lot of degreed individuals that have come from throughout the country. I didn't graduate from Arkansas Tech. My master's is actually from LSU. I may get banned out of the state of Arkansas for saying that, but I pull for the Hogs, and so do my children. So, but all that being said, the Wonder Boys are right here in this area, and that's who we're pulling for. So. It's great to have that big diverse population. There's a nuclear science technology wing in Arkansas Tech, and we have individuals that have degrees that will go out there and will teach classes at that facility. So, I mean, once again, going back to giving back to the community and then reaping the awards over the future. So,
I'm glad you're pulling for Arkansas, Taylor.
Yeah,
got a little tense over there for a second.
Yeah.
Your undergrad was at Thomas Edison?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Yes, sir.
Well, yeah, no, the community, I think we're all grateful for, what the plant does for us. It stimulates the economy. I mean, personally, I worked over there for a little bit, and it's an excellent opportunity. So you meet so many great people out there. And, so for everything you've done, thank you. I don't know if you ever, again, when you first started at the plant, I don't know if you ever saw yourself sitting here in this role, but hopefully the past month has been kind to you, and, the community's looking forward to the future.
I'm looking forward to it as well. Like I said, we've got a bunch of bright young men and women that work out there, and I'm looking forward to the day where I'm retired and I get the opportunity to sit back and just watch the magic happen that the nuclear power is going to bring to the country, and these are the people that are doing it. So it's a big focus area for the station, really developing our people, making sure that they're ready to go on to whatever the next job is they want to go do, and I know that in the future we're going to be seeing more people that are going to be coming up through the organization that'll be in my position, and just a strong talent pool that's out there. So.